Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another special edition of WOWSA Live with a guest from South Africa and our host, Ned Denison from Cork, Ireland. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We have an honor organization, the Midmar Mile, and we have the driving force behind it, Wayne, on the call today. Wayne, if you please introduce yourself and tell us everything we need to know about this incredible event.
Well, thanks very much, Ned, and to Steve. It's nice hearing your voices again. It's a long time since I've been out at one of the conferences. Obviously I inherited this event, way back 30 years ago, and we sort of took it from one level to the next. And, I think the success of it is obviously the swimmers that are coming to swim. So we're getting some things right. But to put it all in a little summary, I think I'll just let you guys, ask what you want about it. But we do pride ourselves in this event, in a little place called Howick, just near Pietermaritzburg, where I coach the Seals Swimming Club. Seals own this event. And, we pride ourselves not only on the actual event and people coming through to finish and everything, but we also do a lot for charity at the same time. And it's the charities that are driven by doing all 8 miles, and some of the people also now swimming back to the start and coming through. It's a smaller group of people, obviously, because it's a lot of swimming over 2 days, 16 miles. And we're raising in the region of 4 million rand for the various charities involved. So when you put this all together, and our 3 top sponsors, who are aQuellé, who've been there for many years now, N3 Toll Concession, who's look after the roads that bring most of our people down from the Gauteng areas, because 50% of our entries are coming from that region. And then Thembeleshele, between these 3 top sponsors, they're going to allow us to build up to our 50th anniversary, which is in 3 more years' time.
So when you took over the event, Wayne, you had, if I got the memory right, 153 swimmers. Have you increased the size of the event in the last while?
In 1974, with the 153 swimmers, I actually it was the first year I'd made a senior national swimming team, at 13 years old. And my coach said to me, "You can't swim this event." So I was just a swimmer in those days. And then the following year, I actually won it, and I won it for 2 years in a row, being allowed to go and swim this event. And it was just I think the second time that I won it, there were only 300 swimmers. I took over the event in 1991, basically. And they've been running it since then. So we sort of like started the batching of races, because people started saying it's too dangerous to go too many people in the water at the same time. But with the computerization in the 90s, early 90s, it allowed us to. We were still using those floppy drives and things like that. Those old discs that kept on failing and things like that. So, I had a really good group of parents that were part of the swimming community of SEALs, who allowed us to computerize the event. And then from there, we had our peak of 17,300 entries. I think it was in 2007. And then it's plateaued out at about 12,000 to 13,000 over the last sort of 8 years or so.
How do people physically get there? Do they make it a day trip? Do they camp? Do they stay in hotels? How does it work?
Well, obviously 50% of our entries are coming from Gauteng areas. So they're driving down the roads, and that's what brings in the N3 Toll Concession, who look after the roads between the sort of Gauteng areas and the KwaZulu-Natal areas, which is where our city is. And but a lot of people would fly from Cape Town. They wouldn't drive. It's just too long, 20 hours or 16 hours, depending on what route you take. The hotels, not too many in Pietermaritzburg, but they're usually all full. Bed and breakfasts in the Midlands Meander area, which is the areas around the Midmar Dam itself, are always full. So people have sort of, are annual visitors to those areas, and they book a year in advance. So it's not easy to find accommodation, but it sort of spreads across everything. And then there's a group of people that will obviously stay in Durban and travel up from Durban, because that's only an hour away. So a bit of a spread. A lot of people come together at the entrance. The dam itself, the authorities that run the dam, they charge per car as opposed to per person. Otherwise, it's just going to be too slow to get into the dam itself. So the support from the KZN Wildlife, the group running the dam, has always been amazing. They make a lot of money at the gate. So I'm sure they don't want to see this event sort of have a downturn at all. But for us, we've put the money back into swimming. So it's important for us to use the money that swimmers are paying to swim an event to, help swimmers in the end.
So 12,000 people show up with their swim caps and their goggles, or their goggles and their togs. And what are the mechanics of the event? How many waves? When do you start? What's it all about?
Okay, so we at the point we are at right now, we have 4 events on the Saturday, 4 on the Sunday. We start off with event 1, where we have a combination of people. We have people doing. We've got other famous events around Pietermaritzburg to Durban, and that's one of them is the Doozy Canoe Marathon and the Comrades Marathon, which is the run. And we combine those 3 events, or with the Midmar Mile, we have 3 events, and it's called the Iron Man. And our swimmers that are now doing the final leg of that 3-way sort of competition, they will swim in the first event on the Saturday, and that starts at 8:15, and we give an extra 15 minutes for that event, because we also ask all of the older swimmers that are 70 and over to swim in that event as well, so that they can take longer than the so-called, we used to have an hour cutoff, but we don't really tell people we're going to throw you out the water, because what you're going to do with them, you're going to have to put them on a boat. So if they can swim to the finish, we'll rather let them finish in 1 hour 15 minutes or so. So we don't mind. We try and make it as accommodating as we can. So your first event is a multiple group, and the pride that we have in that event is your swimmers with disabilities. And we all know our famous Craig Dietzes. He's come along and he's swum there twice, and he's done a couple of the swims. He hasn't just done 1 mile. He's gone back and done another one. And yeah, he's had an amazing experience here, and he's got a huge following from the Midmar Mile from coming out here. So the disability groups there are well looked after, from the hearing impaired, to the sighted, so we cover everybody there. But it's a special moment, because it really sets the tone for the next 7 events, because people are coming out there with no legs, as an example. So if you are healthy and you have got 2 legs, 2 arms, and you are going to moan about your swim, it'll be a little hard if you've now seen how these guys come along and finish. Really impressed with the camaraderie there.
So when this first group finishes, not that it's important to anybody except me, but how many medals are given out?
Okay, so the first event is our smallest event. We have around about sort of 800 to 1,000 people finishing in that first event. And then basically after that, the events will run at an hour and a quarter, one after each other. And in each of the groups after that, there's 5 batches. So we can have up to 400-500 in each batch. So the second event on the Saturday is what we call the team events, and it's the family groups. So if you have a family of 3 or more, you can come along and enter as a family. We've had really famous families that have won that. The famous family at the moment is the Albertains, who, Gary Albertain swims 16 miles. He's, a guy who went on to a US scholarship in the States probably 30 years ago, and he's still involved in swimming, and now his kids are coming through swimming at national level as well. So that family grouping is fairly good. I don't know if you know about Darian Townsend, is quite close to you there in Phoenix. He's a coach there now. He's an ex-SEAL swimmer, Olympian, one of the gold medalists in that 4x100 freestyle relay in 2004. He came through our club. So, his family used to swim there as well. So do very well, because they're all from a swimming background. The next event is a company relay event, where we get companies deciding to come along and swim. So that used to be a fairly big group. It has quietened down over the last few years, because we force people to swim with a safe swimmer device in that event. So it's pushed people who would rather not swim with it to go to other events, and it's just taken the numbers down a little bit. And then the final event on the Saturday is one which we call the non-company event. So people can pick up teams and make the teams themselves, or get a sponsor or something like that. And then that finishes off the Saturday. So a lot more sort of team spirit orientated on the Saturday. On the Sunday, we move on to the competitive day, which is everybody's swimming to get position in the age group categories, basically. And also 4 events every hour and a quarter, starting with the ladies that are 13 and under, and then 31 and over. So we combine moms to swim with daughters, possibly. And then it's followed by the dads and the sons, 13 and under boys and 31 and over guys. And then that's the 2 what we call main events. Okay, your elite swimmers, it's the ladies 14 to 30, and that's where the likes of the Kerry-Ann Paynes, Ashley Twitchells, and all of them have competed and done really well over the last sort of decade or so. And then we have the finale, which is the men's event, and that's really opened up new pathways for a lot of swimmers as they come and race there. So we pride the range of swimmers that come along to swim. So, I think that format is pretty safe at this stage.
Sounds like you put a tremendous amount of thought into fun.
Yeah, we're trying to make it fun. Everybody, as long as they come out there with a smile. And, as I say, in amongst these, if you ever watch any clips, you'll see gold caps. The gold caps are the people doing 8 miles. The green, like neon green caps, these guys are doing 16 miles. So every 37.5 minutes, they swim back to the start and then catch the next wave through. So these are the guys that are doing the fundraising. So, really proud of that group of people.
So instead of an 8 mile straight, it's kind of a staged 8 mile.
Yes, yeah. So they will have a bit of a break. If you're doing, say, 30 minutes per mile, you're going to get yourself 45 minutes rest. We then boat everybody back to the other side. We put on boats that they have a separate area when they come through the finish. Have a little bite to eat and get on the boats, go back to the start, and then wait for that start of each of their waves, and then they come through. Do that 4 times each day. So, but as I say, the 16-mile guys, they all get set off every 37.5 minutes. And
go back to the disabled swimmers, which I'm intrigued by. When did you start? What was the motivation? Was there an initial swimmer that just turned your head? How did this all start?
Well, it started early in the early 80s. As the race itself was developing, with the initial race organizer, the late Clive Chapman. And, disability groups have always been part of it. The disability groups just broke down a little bit more as we went, to accommodate the hearing sight, not just physically disabled. So, that has just grown, and we've kept that group of people. They all swim with white caps in that first event for us to identify them. And it's amazing how competitive those swimmers become, and they're more the regular swimmers that, go and do pool swimming as well. And they really, as I say, for me, if I organize this event just for that event one, I'd be satisfied too as an organizer.
Steve, why don't you jump in for a minute? Can you think of any other race in the world in the 80s that had a welcome mat for disabled swimmers or anything like that?
No, there was plenty of swimmers plenty of disabled swimmers who individually participate in races. That's been going on for many decades. However, what Wayne did with opening up officially, recognizing disabled swimmers to race against each other and celebrate each other's sense of adventure is unique, and it remains so. The cheers that people get, whether they win the men's or women's elite heat, or whether they're number 184th in the disabled heat, is the same. It's amazing. So it's not only Wayne that has driven this, it is his enthusiasm that has allowed the ambiance and the crowds to also accept and celebrate these swimmers. So it's really incredible.
In the Hall of Fame, we have a very proud history for disabled swimmers and contributors. We had James Pittar on, who's lacking sight, interviewed a little while ago. We had Charles Zibbelman, who had no legs, who's also an honor swimmer, and then the number of contributors, starting with Mr. Munatones, who did some early volunteer work for some Special Olympics We've got a pretty proud history. As a swimmer, I occasionally see a disabled swimmer in a group of 30 people or 300 people, but I've never seen a grouping. So I would absolutely congratulate you on that. Wayne, what's the future for the event?
Well, you know, with what's happened to us in the last sort of 2-3 months now with this COVID virus going around, you know, we're not quite sure in the direction of any events at this stage. We normally start our seeding events opening up in October with the 1500 meter swim, which is up in the Sun City area, just 2 hours from Johannesburg. Now we don't know whether these events will actually be able to take place. So we're obviously assuming that by February next year, because we're sitting on the 13th and 14th of February for 2021 for the aQuellé Midmar Mile. So we're hoping that everything will be okay. But I think our life is going to be not normal. It's going to be like we sort of have to do a lot of checks along the way to avoid something happening at any event. So we're obviously assuming we can go ahead with the Midmar Mile next year because of the timing we have. We were lucky that we finished it in February this year, but a number of events as we got into March were cancelled. So we were very fortunate. We obviously, our long-term goal is to get to the 50th anniversary and make it something special. If we can get our founder of the event, who basically, you know, started up the whole idea of putting this swim on, Mike, he's now 87 years, hoping that he can, you know, see it through all the way to the 50th anniversary, because this year in the first event, we had some rough weather, so we had to pull some swimmers out just near the finish because the safety, you know, of the event is crucial. So the lifesavers and the heads of the safety decided that they've got to pull the people out. So we still accredited him with a finish. You know, and then we had some huge lightning just after that. So we had to delay all of our events by a good hour. And, you know, you can always tell when it's okay from the competitors, when they sit and they wait and they don't moan. They're quite happy to wait and see it out and then go and swim. So, you know, you sort of wait, are they going to start shouting at you? Are they
I only once got in. I only once got in.
So many people can, but
I only once got in when the lightning was coming down.
Yeah, lightning is something that so the calls were all correct. So we were fortunate and we managed to finish all the events after that. So it was a minor little glitch. So we're hoping that a person like Mike Arbuthnot will be able to, you know, be there at the 50th anniversary, and we hope that we'll make it a special time for him. So we want to try and encourage more people to come from throughout the world as well. You know, we'd like to try and push the numbers up and try and go for our Guinness Book of Records again. That sits at 13,755 finishes. And, you know, we have around about 12,000 finishes on average now. So, you know, in a special moment like a 50th anniversary, I think we could possibly push it towards that 15,000 mark.
Fantastic. Wayne, give us a little bit of what's happening in South Africa today with the COVID and how it's affecting swimmers, how it's affecting average daily life.
Well, I think it's the same as throughout the world. You know, the lockdown, you know, our president announced it fairly early, 26th of March. We went into lockdown, so we didn't quite get to our Olympic trials. You know, we had a lot of kids that were really aiming high at the Olympic trials early April. So it was a lockdown for 3 weeks, and then it was now extended. You know, once we got to the 3 weeks, now we're going through this phased sort of lockdown 3, which is now a lot more people able to do things. We're still waiting for clearance, though, from who I'm not quite sure, whether it's going to come from our national federation or our local provincial association, whether we can get back in the water. I think it's affecting a lot of learn to swim teachers who are reliant on that money. You know, we've got huge overheads running our facility here, which is funded by the Midmar Mile. So, you know, 3 months where you've got no income can put a lot of pressure on you, but we should be okay. But there'll be other people that won't be. You know, gyms, you've got a lot of Virgin Active gyms here in South Africa, and they're not open yet. And they've got lots of really nice swimming pools where people do their training. So when that's going to be eased up, I'm not sure. I think everybody's really, really hoping that somebody's going to say, listen, you can go back. You know, there's all the arguments with the swimming pools with chlorine and that it should be safe. Social distancing is easy. You know, you're going to be in the water. You can swim 2-3 in a lane without any problem, compared to going out for a jog in the morning where you could have, you know, 200 or 300 people all around you. The economy of our that's strong. So obviously, you know, a lot of businesses, when I come out to the pool and I take a drive, I can see probably half a dozen businesses already closed, but I'm sure everybody's seeing that in every country. So I think we're all getting affected very similar. And, you know, I'm sure that some swimmers are going to hop into the water as soon as possible and possibly get injuries, because I don't think they've ever been out the water this long for many, many years.
Yeah, our problem here is the water temperatures are cold. So we've got the people jumping in the ocean who've been pool swimmers their entire lives, and somehow figure out after about 11 strokes that the temperature is a bit of a challenge. But that's kind of a constant battle in Ireland. Steve, you've had pools open now where you are for a couple of weeks. Is that correct?
There are some pools in some states that are open. However, shorelines have opened up. We call it beach in motion. So in other words, you have to swim, jog, walk on the beach. You cannot lay your towel down and sunbathe. So actually, when I look at our oceans and our lakes, and people seem to be more active than they were in the past. People are moving, and the beach in motion has some benefit. But like Wayne and Peter Maritzburg and you over there, most pools are still closed. A place hard hit like Boston just yesterday announced that pools can open under severe limitations: 2 swimmers per lane, only a certain number of people on the pool deck, no use of the locker rooms, 1 person in the bathroom. You have to clean the bathroom and other things after use. So it is something completely normal, which is interesting. I think one of the effects are people are going to be very appreciative of swimming to a degree we've never had before. And 2, they're going to be very efficient in their training. If a team of a large team has to share a pool and everybody is only allotted, let's say, an hour or half an hour for swimming, we're not going to have, like me, just sitting on the pool deck and laughing. And I mean, we're going to get in and we're going to swim very efficiently. So, you know, I always like looking at the positive side of things. But again, over to you.
So Wayne, I want to thank you very much. I'm absolutely applauding your early history and continuing history with the disabled swimmers. And for anybody who's listening that has ideas of doing Midmar, it's a bit like Rottnest in Australia. If you want a place to stay on the island, you book a year ahead of time. So if you're going to go down to Midmar and you plan to spend a few days, get your accommodation sorted out now. Thank you very much, Wayne.
That's a pleasure. Thanks again. Thanks very much, Ned, and to Steve.
Thank you.